We're going to be talking about the secrets of effective texting today with marketing automation. And kind of the genesis for this whole training is that I've just been working with texting for the last 10 years. And over that time, I've seen things that work and things that don't. And there are a lot of limitations on particular texting approaches that people take that aren't from what should or shouldn't be done because it's effective or not, but because of what software can do. And I actually have 3 different software companies that I run together with my brother Trent that do focus on texting as a central core element of them. And I know these limitations because we ran into these same limitations as we were developing our software out. So initially when we had our software, it was just this automated texting part, and then we had the ability for campaigns to send text messages. We're missing some key elements. And so we did workarounds until I just got so annoyed at those workarounds. So what you're going to learn today is what we've learned over the course of 10 years working with texting. And really the summary here of how you can start using texting to immediately improve sales conversion, customer retention, and greater profit kind of hits at the core of what we'll be talking about today. So if you've been using texting in your business with marketing automation, or you've been thinking about it, then this is the right place for you to be. So just by summary, here's what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to be showing you why texting is 10 times more powerful than email when used correctly. We're going to have a Q&A, by the way, at the end. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, go ahead and ask them in real time. I probably won't hit them until the end, but we will definitely cover every question that you have that comes up. So ask those questions as soon as they come up. Don't wait until the end to ask them. And we will cover every question that you have during this training. But for the sake of the training flowing, I'm going to just stick right to the training initially. Next, I'm going to teach you how to immediately increase profits if you have any leads. This is important because a lot of companies are always trying to get more leads and better leads. But the truth is, if you can get more out of what you currently have, you're going to be able to do a lot better all around, because getting more leads costs money. So being able to increase profits with the leads that you have is going to be more valuable than anything. So I want to show you how to do that with messaging. I'm going to show you the most powerful text message you can send to new prospects. And it's, you know, I hate those cliches where we're talking about most powerful or that one text message, but it's actually true. So I'm going to show that to you. If it weren't true, then I would, of course, avoid that entirely, because I think it's so terrible when people try and pretend that something is that powerful, but this actually is. I'm going to share a common element of all customers who buy that's really critical for you to understand. If you do, it just makes it that much easier to make more money in your company, in your business. We're going to teach you how to double sales conversions with one text. So there's one text that's the best, most powerful one to send to new prospects, but there's another one that will help double your sales conversions. And so that's one I'm going to show you and talk to you about. And then we're also going to look at how you can quadruple the number of people you talk to on the phone with, again, a single text message. A lot of these, there's like 3 different messages you're going to need to understand how to send. Once you understand those messages and what they, kind of the doors they unlock, it's pretty spectacular. And just the results that we've seen with people, that's why I'm so excited about this topic, is the results we've seen with people who have used our software to do these things. And I'm going to say this real quick too. Obviously, I have my own software that does these things, but if you have a software that accomplishes the same end results, you can do the same things with these techniques and strategies. So that's why this training is not a sales pitch for our software specifically, but rather a training on how to be more effective in messaging. So if you are using another software and you can accomplish the same things, if you'll do these concepts, these strategies that I'm going to teach you, then you'll get the same results. It's not dependent on the software as much as it is the application of the strategy. I'm going to show you how to get prospects to give you their mobile number. And then finally, we'll also talk about the most powerful use of texting that most people are avoiding. And this is probably the main reason I put on this training, is because it really irks me when people, because of technology constraints, do the wrong thing. And they actually avoid the most powerful thing that a particular media can accomplish if they just didn't have that limitation of the software or the technology. So I'm going to teach you why this is so powerful, why people are avoiding it, and how you can avoid making the same mistake. So that's a pretty good agenda. If you walk away from this training and you get even 2 or 3 of these things and you apply them, which the beautiful thing about this is most of these things take a few minutes to apply, maybe 15 or 20 minutes to think if you want to be thoughtful about it. If you don't want to think too hard about it, you just want to do something off of the basic concept I've given you, literally minutes, you can have a lot of these things applied. I know when people start using our messaging software, they can be set up in like 5 minutes and they're good to go. They're starting to run down that course. And if you understand the concepts we're going to talk about in this training, it really doesn't take much to, I guess the phrase is big doors swing on small hinges. And so these are some small hinges that will swing big doors for your company. Just by way of introduction, just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Ryan Chapman. I've been in the marketing automation world since 2006. In 2007, my brother and I started a company that was a training company. We're using marketing automation software. We're using Infusionsoft. And over the course of the next 12 months after we started that company, we did $1.3 million in revenue. And a good portion of that was profit too, which is an important question you should be asking. And it wasn't because we were so smart. We happened to be in the right place at the right time, but we happened to understand a couple important concepts. One was the power of marketing automation. The other one was direct response marketing. And combining those two, we were able to apply a lot of these things that we were learning into a real environment where we had a chance to actually make money and prove out some of the concepts. And so over the next few years, we'd make millions doing that business, but then we segued into software. And so that's where Trent and I are now. I'm the author of 3 books. Would You Like to Go Big, which is all about upsells and how to do them in a way that's actually welcoming and not annoying, because we've all seen upsells that are annoying. How to Fix Your Funnel, which actually has nothing to do with our company that's named Fix Your Funnel, but has more to do with the concept of how to look at your business and recognize where the opportunities are to actually grow the business, because too frequently people spend time in the wrong areas of the business, they don't get any results from it, and then they feel frustrated. So that's what How to Fix Your Funnel is. And then the messaging connection is kind of, to me, the most relevant and important one right now because of what we're going to talk about today. And that book is all about messaging or text messaging and how to actually connect with people in the way that's effective for your business. So that's the secrets of effective texting in today's training. So here's an important number for you to understand. There are 4 billion smartphones in the world today. This number, I think you can't really wrap your head around because billion is a number that we throw around periodically. 4 billion is more than half of the population of the earth. So that's kind of an interesting number to think about. But there's that many smartphones in the market today. So this is a really big deal, and I think a lot of people still don't grasp it. We see it, it's like in our face, but we don't quite grasp the significance of it. And it's pretty phenomenal if you really start to understand what that means for you and your business and what kind of shifts you need to be making. But to me, one of the concepts that's important for you to understand is texting is the most intimate form of communication available to marketing automation platforms. Now, there are more intimate forms of communication like face-to-face, and I consider the phone, like a phone call from a human to a human, to be pretty intimate. But the next most intimate, and this is the one that's available to marketing automation platforms, is texting. And so you really got to understand, how do you use it properly and effectively? Otherwise, you can just blow it. I see people just destroy their reputation and their relationships by not using texting properly. So we're going to be talking about some of the guidelines to that. The other thing that's really cool is there's a dedicated app for messaging or texting on every single mobile phone, even dumb phones, right? Dumb phones, feature phones, smartphones, they all have a dedicated app for texting. And so that's a really big thing for you to think about, because that means that's available to every one of these 4 billion. Now, there's more than 4 billion people connected to the mobile internet or to a cellular network, but there's 4 billion with smartphones. So that's a distinction. This is not maybe a commentary on society. We're not going to worry about that too much, but the smartphone is always within 3 feet of the owner at all times, which is kind of sad, but that's life. And so let's not think too much about that in terms of our business perspective. Maybe personally, but not in our business perspective, we need to face that that's the reality, that most people can't be more than 3 feet away from their phone at all times. And so that's an important thing to think about in marketing, because marketing, it's not really about what you send, it's what's delivered and consumed. And so it's not even, delivery is just a critical part, sending is just a critical part to the end point, which is consumption. So we're thinking about consumption. How do I get my message actually consumed by the contact? That's a more critical concern than how do I send a message to them. Sending is part of consumption, but consumption is the more important consideration. So keep that in your mind as well. And then finally, you need to remember that people have multiple email addresses, but one mobile phone number. Characteristically, that's the truth. And there's only usually one personal mobile phone number, even if they have two, like a business line and a personal one. Some people in corporate will get a corporate phone and then they'll have their personal phone. But there's only one personal mobile phone number, multiple email addresses. And so that's a really important thing to consider as well. Okay, and so far I've gotten into any of the 10 agenda items that we have, but I'm setting the baseline. You need to understand these concepts because they inform everything else. They give context to the rules that I'm going to teach you today. So this is the final part of context, which is this graph represents PC sales versus smartphone units shipped. And you'll see this chart only goes to 2015. I probably should get a newer one that extends 4 more years to where we are today. But you can see in 2015, we were at 1.4. That just, if you extended that up to know what do we need to do to get to 4 billion, you could see how that chart even differs even further. And you'd probably also see that PC sales have gone further down. Now, the reason this is significant, because if you're involved with marketing automation in your business at all, what you're fully dependent on is the internet. And this purple line, this area right here represents the era of PCs. And that's important because chances are, if you're on this training right now, that you were accessing computers at some point early on in this process, right? Or in other words, computers have been a pretty significant part of your life as a business owner for quite a while. And sometimes we take our perspective and misconstrue that to be everybody's perspective. Not everybody has done that. In fact, the ability for us to market to people through email and on the internet during the age of the PC internet, which started around in the 90s and then went to about 2010, and I'll explain why it ended in 2010. But that if you had any success online, the number of people that you could access was limited by the number of people that had computers with internet access. And while that was fairly significant in developed parts of the country, it wasn't ubiquitous. And I know this from personal experience because like in 2005, I started a software company that failed miserably, which was for contractors, home contractors. And the idea was that there would be this online tool that they could submit their plans to get bids and all that kind of stuff. The only thing I didn't take into consideration was the fact that my experience of having a PC with the internet was not everybody's experience. And so that failed miserably. And then the success that Trent and I had with our business that started in 2007, when the iPhone was introduced, to 2012, which was kind of the range in which that business operated, was mostly dictated by the consumer of our business, right? Their ability to access the internet through a PC. Unfortunately, our market mostly had PCs and access to the internet, so we were able to reach a good number of them. But had they not, we would have not had the success we did. It was largely dependent on that. Now, if you fast forward to 2010, that moment in which the red and the blue lines cross is what introduced the beginning of the age of mobile. And that's really critical for you to understand because in 2010, 2011, and that time frame, there was the traffic that was on computers was overshot by internet traffic that was on smartphones or mobile devices. And so from that moment on, most of what's consumed online is happening on phones. Now, that's probably not true for you if you're a business owner, because as business owners, we tend to focus more on our experience, which is we're usually building things on the computer, especially if you're using marketing automation, because most marketing automation tools are dictated by the computer. So you have to use a laptop or a desktop in order to be able to access and modify campaigns and things like that. And so you're probably connected more to the computer than maybe your customers are. But for most customers, they're doing most of their consumption on mobile phones. And even you as a smart and advanced business owner will probably notice that you do quite a bit of consumption on the smartphone as well. So we're in this age of mobile. And so what that means is that you want to open the door to texting ASAP. And the reason you want to open the door to texting is because if you don't have mobile phone numbers, you don't have permission to be texting people, then all the stuff I'm going to talk to you about today, it ends up being unavailable to you. And that's not because it couldn't be available to you, but because you hadn't considered opening the door to texting in your business, you miss out on all these rich opportunities. And I say rich because it's not like it takes a long time to start taking the benefits of mobile in texting. It happens so rapidly that before, in preparation for this, I went and talked to our support people, because my support team actually spends more time talking to my customers than I do these days. And so I asked them, what's the experience, what's the feedback that you get as you work with our customers on helping them get texting integrated into their business? And the thing that they said repeatedly was, people are so excited how quickly to start getting results. But all that hinges on, you got to start opening the door to texting. When I say open the door, what I mean is not just legally, which means get permission, but psychologically, which means we got to enroll them in saying, oh, wow, I can actually text with this business, because that starts opening all sorts of opportunities that we're going to go through now. One of the best ways to do that is asking them to text you first. We'll cover this more in depth, but I just want to throw that in on this slide. And you may be required to have a stronger offer and call to action in order to get people to give you their mobile number, depending on how you're asking for it. But that's a good practice anyways, because a lot of people are a little sloppy on their offer and their call to action. As a result, they can only ask for email. If you're only asking for email, the reason why is because that's all you can, because your offer isn't compelling and your call to action isn't strong. So, having to work on those things is a net benefit. But because it opens all these other doors, you're going to want to do it. In other words, it's worth it. So let's get into campaign messages. This is the first place where a lot of people can start implementing texting into their business, into their marketing automation, and start doing it more effectively. And so that means you start sending text messages from what are currently email-only campaigns. Now, what that means is you're going to look at an email campaign that you have. You're going to say, okay, where would be a good place for me to send a text message? Now, to decide where would be a good place to send the text message, I want to show you the 3 types of campaign messages that we have seen that are effective. And the first one and this isn't necessarily the most effective, but this is the first one that comes to mind, is the content delivery text message. So this is a link to a video, a PDF, or to some other resource. We're not actually delivering the resource in the text message, but a link to it. So that's the first one. And so here's an example of one that I pulled from our setup. And it says, Bill, here's a link to a video on how top Infusionsoft users are using Slack. And then I've got a link. And then I put a little comment in the end because I had room in my 160 characters, because this is what's called an SMS, or simple messaging service message. And that means it's text only. The link, you'll see it looks like a link that's tappable because the software that runs on smartphones converts that text and recognizes it and converts it there. That's not an actual HTML, that's just text, but the software is able to recognize that on the device that they're receiving it on and converts that into a link for them. So that's why it has to have the HTTP in there and little slashes, even though it's extra characters out of our 160 characters that we're allowed to have in a message. That's why that's in there, because I had a little extra room. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, that's the beginning of what is one of the big keys to messaging, which is, and this is interesting, Trent and I talked about this on a new podcast series we're doing called Beyond the Messaging Connection, where we go more in depth on the messaging connection. But the real benefit of any media is only there if you utilize it. And one of the big benefits of messaging, if you think about how do you use it personally, you're usually using texting personally to interact with some other person, right? You're texting them, you're expecting them to text you back, you're having a conversation. And so one of the biggest benefits of texting isn't just that it's going to have better delivery and better visibility and better consumption than an email or maybe some other forms of media that you can use in marketing automation. But the real benefit of it, the benefit that comes to your company, is when you start engaging in conversation. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But that's why I put that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, the next type, this is actually one of the more powerful types, and this is one of those types of messages I was talking about earlier that is really powerful for converting people to customers, and that is the conversation starter question related to the campaign content. And this will double your sales conversation. So when I talk about doubling your conversions, conversions come as a result of conversation. And so this is going to help double your conversations by engaging prospects. So here's one sample that I might send after I sent the video or the content delivery text message. That is, I sent you a video on how to use Slack with Infusionsoft yesterday. What did you think? Now, the open-ended question means that they can't answer it with one word, right? So did you think it was valuable would not be an open-ended question or a conversation starting question. That would just be a response garnering question. So they might say yes or no, but that doesn't really help you to start a conversation. So what did you think is an open-ended question. There's no right or wrong answer to that. They can say whatever they think, and that's fine, because what we really want to understand is where are they? Where are they mentally in relationship to doing business with us? And that open-ended conversation starter question can help engage that conversation. The other thing that's really unique about a question like, what did you think, is that nobody else is asking it. And the reason probably why is because as business owners, sometimes we can be a little self-conscious about our baby, our business. And so we don't maybe want to hear anything other than good. And so sometimes we're afraid to ask questions because we don't want to hear the answers. But you need to ask those questions in order to have conversations, because all conversations can lead to sales, but you can't have sales without conversations. So that's an important part. Here's another example. This one comes from an automated conversation, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in today's training. But this one right here is the final text in a conversation. We'll show why this is critical in terms of its placement. But in this scenario, what I've done is I've already asked for name and email, and now I'm confirming that I got the email. I say, great, I'll email you the link to the book. By the way, why did you request the book today? Now, this is from a conversation I'll let you participate in if you'd like, that is about getting a free digital and audio copy of my book, Messaging Connection. And so I'm asking this question, why did you request the book today? Because that's a conversation starter question. And I'll get into the significance and the secret words that are in this question in just a moment. But that is a great example of a conversation starter question that you'll want to incorporate into your texting. Now, the final is a reference to an email sent. And this can be really powerful because one of the weaknesses of texting is that it's relatively short on content, right? We can't send a novel. We can't send some of the rich content that we can send in the email. And so email and texting have their place, and they should actually work together instead of being isolated from each other. And this is one of those examples. Sometimes, and I'll give you a case, people that are in the in the EU basically just got some new regulations that require a bunch of documentation in order for them to use a phone number for texting through marketing automation. It's just basically to have a phone number in general. I don't know exactly the reasoning behind it, but in the European Union, they're requiring a bunch of new documentation. So we're going to have to gather that from our customers that are in the EU. So I'm going to send an email with all the details, but because I don't want them to miss the email, I'm going to send a text message like this one, which is going to reference the email. So it's like, Bill, it's Ryan from Fix Your Funnel. Because you asked about texting, I just sent you an important email. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm kind of trying to initiate a conversation based on that content in the email. In the case of this, trying to gather information from customers in the European Union, I'm going to say, hey, there's an important email I sent you with details on what's necessary to keep sending text messages in the EU. Please reference it. So what's great about the text message that is better than email is that it's usually seen. And so if you have a text message that you can send out that will help to improve engagement with an email in your campaign, or maybe you have richer and more detailed information than you can fit in a text message, that's a really effective way to be using texting. And you'll notice, because we're doing it contextually and we're doing it as part of a campaign, this isn't something that is abusive. We're not trying to beat them into buying something right now. What we're trying to do is communicate information. And by trying to communicate information and then also trying to start conversations, we're we're not trying to make a media do what it's not designed to do or not allowed to do. So when it comes to texting with normal phone numbers, it's frowned upon to do direct sales in the text messages that are automated. And what is the proper role for selling is to actually happen from person to person, which is fine for live texting, but not really great for automated texting. And so that's one of the key things you'll want to understand about, because it is an intimate media. We don't want to just be pounding on people with buy messages. We want to be sharing information. We want to be engaging in conversation. We want to be referencing important emails. Now, that email that you referenced to may have a direct call to action to buy in it. That's totally cool, because that's what email can do. People are used to that in email. But in the texting, we don't want to do that. We want to maybe point them towards those references, or point them to a page that has a video and then a direct call to action. That's fine. It's kind of an intermediary media instead of a direct to sell media. So if you understand that, then you're going to be way more effective in your texting, because it's never going to be construed as salesy or spammy, but it's going to be construed as relationship or trying to get to know what your needs are. So this message right here, those are the secret words, those 3 words. Why did you? And you may see that I used something similar in what did you think, but why did you is a question of asking, what was your intent? And that's why this is the most important message for new prospects. So when you're doing lead capture, and we're going to talk about automated conversations for lead capture in particular, when you do that, that question is one of the most important questions you can ask anyone. That is, why did you? And then referencing whatever it is that they started to do that you know happened because the result of the fact that they're engaging in this automated conversation. So write those 3 words down. Why did you? In big, bold letters, and underline it. If you don't have a paper around you, find a paper, write that down, and make sure that stays on your desk, because that is a really important 3 secret words that if you use that, and you can, of course you should use it in texting, but you could also use it in email. So this is one of the superpowers of email that people don't take advantage of, which makes it less effective as a media, which is the ability to receive a response. And so why did you is a really important question, because it gets to the heart of why is the person taking action now? And that helps you to understand where they are in relationship to moving towards that journey of becoming a customer. And so it's really, really important that you get that question in there, because the more people that answer that question, the more people you can help make a buying decision. And that's what's going to help your business grow the quickest. Okay, so before we go into automated conversations, I want to explain a really important concept. Now, this concept, maybe you've observed it. If you haven't, this is really important. It has nothing to do with texting, but this is really important. And that is that the best innovations come from other industries and places. And I think it was Jay Abrams that, or Abraham that kicked me onto this concept, because he did this with his work in marketing. If you should probably be familiar with Jay Abrams. But if you go and look at any of his books or whatever, he'll talk about this concept. And one of the concepts that I want to use that comes from a different place maybe is the idea of inventory cost. Many people that use marketing automation, many of them are not selling a product, they're selling a service. Some sell a product, and then in which case, hopefully this concept's well known to them, well understood, but you have this inventory cost. And if you don't sell a product, if you sell a service, then sometimes this concept can be lost on you, but it's in play in your business whether you realize it or not. So in this scenario, I'm talking about a kid who is working the summer at a fair, and he has a supplier that has soft pretzels. He goes and buys them, $20 is his cost. If he sells them, he makes $20 in profit. In other words, he'll make $40, enough to reinvest in his inventory, and then profit he can put in his pocket. And so in order for him to make money, he's got to flip that inventory. And the more flips he can do per day, the more profit that he makes. So if he just does one flip, okay, he makes 100% ROI on his $20 that he put in. But if he can do that multiple times, then he makes much more money with the same amount of capital. And usually for most businesses, there are constraints on all resources. You only have a limited amount of capital, limited amount of time, limited amount of effort, mental energy. All these things are limited. And because of that, we have to take those constraints and then utilize them in order to make the best result that we want. And so the question in this thing is, how do you increase inventory flips? And if he just focused on how he could increase inventory flips, so that may be, going to the busier parts of the park, or, going where the lemonade is, or whatever. There might be these different things that he can do that can help increase inventory flips. But that's his main question he's got to ask, because the more that he does that, the more money he can make in a day. Well, in other businesses, there is inventory in leads. So what you spend to get a lead is your inventory. And the question is, how much time goes between when you capture a lead before that person becomes a customer? And that determines how many inventory flips you have. So if your average time of person from lead to customer is 3 months, that means you have to have capital for all of your leads tied up for 3 months before one of them turns into a customer, and then you help replenish that capital back into what should be spent on getting more leads. And so that is a concept people may not be thinking about. They may not be physically thinking, okay, I've got the capital invested there. That capital is invested for 3 months. Now I got a sale. Okay, now I put that back into my advertising budget for getting leads. They may not be thinking of it that way, but that's what's happening in the business. It's consuming capital. And so if you can shorten the time from lead to customer, you accelerate your profit growth. And most people aren't aware of that. They don't understand that, oh, if I can shorten that time from lead to customer, then I actually can grow much quicker. And I mean, we think about, oh yeah, I get customer and I get a new customer, then I'm going to grow faster. But really, you have this limited capital. And so if you move someone quicker down that route, then your company has more capital available to grow quicker. And so you need to be thinking about, how do I accelerate that growth in shortening that path between lead to customer. And so that's kind of set up for the next effective use of texting, which is automated conversations. So what you're seeing here on the screen is a screenshot of a automated conversation that's based off of a keyword. In this case, the keyword is demo. And what that means is that when someone texted the phone number that I have associated with this keyword, that this automated conversation is going to start. And it's going to start gathering some information and delivering information. And this is used for lead capture. And the reason that this is one of the more effective ways to lead capture is because what it does to shorten the distance between prospect to customer. And I'm going to explain to you why this is so effective at doing this, at the same time explaining what's happening behind the scenes, because it's pretty obvious if you read through this little conversation flow, you can see what's going on, but there's a bunch of stuff that's happening in the background that's also important to understand. So the keyword and the phone number create something that we can understand as the context of this conversation. So I will put out the keyword and phone number in different places. If somebody texts demo to our phone number, in this case it's the 760-621-8199 number, if they text the keyword demo to that number, I know a few different things about that person immediately, even if they do nothing else. I know that they saw something about our software, or somebody told them something about our software, and they're interested in seeing how it worked. In our case, instead of having a human doing a demo, the automated conversation is the demo of automated conversations. But when they text that, I automatically know the context. The other thing I automatically know is their mobile phone number, because as they text the word, along with the message, I get the phone number. And so at that point, I know who, how to contact them, and I know why. And that's really important in lead capture. But that gives me a ton of information right there, right off the bat, even if nothing else happened. When they text demo, using a software to do an automated conversation, what happens is a message is sent out automatically, this thanks for starting this automated demo, and a tag is applied to the contact record. So a contact record is created with the phone number, and a tag is applied. And so at that point, I have the tag telling me the context of the demo keyword, and I've got the phone number in my CRM. And so that's really important to understand. Just at that point, I've got quite a bit of information that's useful for calling, texting, remarketing through Facebook and Instagram, and then also context. So with all that, I can do quite a bit. Now, in this message, one of the important things I do right off the bat is I set expectations. Now, this first message that's in gray is what's known as just a plain text message, or SMS. Now, that message, because it's SMS, goes through a different channel in the carriers than other messages that may have media attached to them. And it's very fast because it doesn't use any data. The next message, after I ask for their name, you'll see here in this case, I responded with my name, Ryan Chapman. That contact information is going to be added to the contact record. So when I reply with my name, that's now put into the contact record. If I just replied Ryan, it would just be Ryan in the first name. Because I replied my full name, it goes Ryan in the first name, Chapman in the last name. And so that happens automatically with the software that's running this automated conversation. The response that sends to them is sending what's called the MMS, or a multimedia message. And the thing right there at the very top is what's known as a contact card, sometimes called a V card. And that contact card has all of my business's contact information. So it has any phone numbers that we have. In our case, with the Fix Your Funnel business, we operate all over the world. So we have numbers in different countries. And so all of our numbers for different countries are in there, as well as our US number, which is our main number. It has our address, our website addresses. It has, in our case, download links to our iPhone and Android apps. But we have all that information in that V card. And the reason that we send that pretty early on in the relationship is because the phone, even if it's not installed, the phone uses what's called machine learning to extract information from environments and then present that to the owner of the phone in ways that the phone thinks might be useful for the owner. And so with that information there, it's going to associate our company name to our phone number. So if we text or call in the future, it says, even if they don't install the contact card into their phone, it will say, maybe Fix Your Funnel. And so that helps us to be identified better in the future. And so that's why we're thinking really early on, we want to introduce our contact card to the prospect early on in the conversation. Now, this is important for you to understand as well, because as you're creating automated conversations, you want to think about the future as you're in the present. And the future means if I try to call or text that person in the future, what's the number one reason people don't respond to text messages or phone calls? And the number one reason isn't I'm not interested, but it's I don't recognize the number. And so by finding ways to help introduce yourself early on will make it easier for them to then recognize and respond in the future. The other thing that you'll see in this message is that there's personalization going on. So in the message that's sent in the next step is the first name that was gathered in the previous step from the prospect. And so that makes it so that it's a more intimate form of communication. It's more personal, and it helps then for them to feel more like it's tailored to them. And so you'll see in my message here, I said I've attached the contact card. Because this is a demonstration, I'm also teaching at the same time. So I'm teaching them why they might want to do that. And then I asked them to reply with their email address. And then again, I set expectations by saying what I send you next could blow your mind. And so I asked for the email address, and you'll see there that that's what I've also saved into the contact record. Once the email address is saved into the contact record inside of my CRM, a tag is also applied. Now this tag, it can be used in marketing automation to kick off the sending of an email. So if there's something I had promised in the call to action for people to text demo to the keyword, I'm going to, at that point, send whatever I promised through the marketing automation software. Now, the next step, you'll see there's a picture, and it's that guy from that Ancient Aliens show on History Channel. And the question is your mind blown yet? But I've merged in personal information into the image. And the reason why is because that's a really powerful way to get someone's attention, right? In marketing, it's about consumption. It's not about sending, it's about consumption. So I want to find ways to help people consume whatever it is I'm sending it to them. So when this message comes across their phone, if they had put their phone down for some reason or they've been distracted in something else, when this message comes in, it's going to show that preview image with their name embedded in it, along with my message, or at least the beginning of the message on their alert notification or push notification on their phone. And so that's an important thing for me to be thinking about as a marketer is how could this be received? So it may be received with full attention, it may be received with no attention, in which case I want to get them re-engaged. And so the picture is a real powerful way to do that. The other thing you may notice is when I attach media like a V card or a contact card or a picture, I now can send 1,600 characters instead of 160 characters in the message. And that's why those messages are a little bit longer. I don't want to use 1,000 characters because that's just too much. but I do want sometimes the ability to send a little bit more information. You'll notice I break them up into paragraphs. The message above the photo you'll see has maybe a little too many words without a paragraph break, but I really want to keep it to 3 lines because it's easier for people to read. And so those are things I'm thinking about as I'm writing these messages. In this case, I'm referencing the picture. I'm telling them that's one of the things that's possible. And then I've got I've got a link here. In this case, this goes to a simple survey, which will allow me to gather additional information. It is a trackable link, which means just by tapping on that link, a tag is going to get applied to the contact record. That's giving me more information about how they're interacting with my messages. And so that's why I want to gather that. And I could maybe use that then to tailor my emails or even my text messages to be slightly different based on what other information I'm gathering. So that's a really critical part about links in text messages is if you use a trackable type link, then that link should be able to apply tags, connect to the contact record. So if I directed them to a page with a video, I could actually track if they watched the video. So those things are possible with a link in a text message. And then finally, you may have recognized this. This is the most important part. It's the why did you question. If you wrote that down earlier, then you'll recognize that why would I ask at this point, why did you text demo to our number today? What possibly could I get from that question? And understand, not everybody that receives the text message responds to the text message. That's called marketing 101, right? We never get 100% of people to respond the way that we would hope. But for those that do, this means that they've got questions and they're open and they're looking to have a conversation. And the reason that conversation is so critical is what we're going to get to next. But hopefully, and if you have any questions, again, that are coming up for you, go ahead and ask those questions because I'll go back to slides and we'll look at those as we get into the Q&A portion. But this is the structure of a really solid automated conversation. Now you'll notice I didn't ask for more information in the automated conversation portion. And the reason why is because 3 messages is about 3 levels of interaction is what I feel is appropriate in order for you to open the door that texting is an option with your company. And so I like 3 because it's manageable. It's usually fairly quick and easy for people to do. I'm asking for information that's appropriate to be asked in a text message. And what I mean by that is I feel like it's inappropriate to ask for an address in a text message because there's too much that can go wrong in gathering that information. And so I will do that in a different way with our software Fix Your Funnel. We do that through mobile pages where we actually use Google Address Autocomplete to help people gather addresses that are complete and accurate. But I wouldn't want to gather that information in a text message. And so I don't like to see a conversation that goes longer than 3. 4 would probably be max, but really I like to go automated to gather some basic contact information like first name and email. I've already got the mobile phone when they text the keyword. And then I like to segue into a conversation. And again, the reason this is so critical, this why did you question, is because it compresses the time frame that a person takes to go from lead to customer. Because what happens when a person goes from lead to customer is they've obviously got some interest in what you're doing if your call to action is appropriate to your business, right? Unless my call to action is way off, then this doesn't apply. But if my call to action is in alignment with someone who would eventually become a customer, then by engaging in conversation early on in the lead capture process, which is what we're doing here, and this is what's unique about the automated conversation save versus a web form. If you do a web form, okay, so imagine that you've got a web form, you ask for name, email, phone number, and because of the web form, you know the context, okay? So I've asked for all that. What happens once they click submit? Boom, it goes to a thank you page, and on that thank you page, I may have to try and engage them in some other media or way to get them to start having a conversation with me. It's not normal or natural to start engaging in a conversation off of filling out a web form. However, when you've just gone through 3 steps of having an interactive conversation in a text message app, it is very natural then to proceed into live texting. And so that's what the question is designed to do. It's designed to lead into that. But who would go into answering the question? The answer is people who normally would not buy on their own, but have a question or want to engage in some way in order to resolve questions or concern so that they can be able to get response and ultimately become a customer. So, and that's an important distinction, and we'll get into that in just a moment a little bit more. In our software, this is what the setup looks like, and you can see how simple that is. That's not overwhelming at all. It's very, very simple. It's pretty natural. You see the tags being applied with those little blue bars there that have the tag names in them, and a little tag icon next to them. You see the contact card in there on the second one down, and the little tiny thumbnail of the image on the third one. You can see that we have little merge fields for first name in that second text message. And so you can kind of get a feel for how this is fairly easy to set up and edit and change if you notice that something needs to change. But the secret here, and this is the thing that really blows me away that so many people avoid, is they avoid the one thing that texting is all about. Texting is about conversation. Now, the automated conversation is fine to get lead capture and have, do some stuff that you wouldn't want a human necessarily having to do because it's repetitive and it's fairly structured. But as soon as we get into conversation with a live human, that's where texting really shines. And so we'll use the automation part on the front end just to gather that contact information, but then we want to segue into human-to-human interaction as quickly as possible. And the big reason why is annoying marketers speak at contacts. They don't speak with, they speak at. And so go check your emails. If your emails are all telling people what to do and not engaging in conversation, you're missing a huge opportunity because you're being annoying in many ways. And I know no one wants to hear you're being annoying, and probably that's not the best thing for me to tell you if I wanted you to spend money with me or something, but I feel like telling the truth is more important than getting people's money. And so the truth is, if you're just speaking at contacts, you're being an annoying marketer. If you want to be an effective marketer, you have to speak with. And yeah, you can cite me 100 examples of people with huge lists that make lots of money, but the problem is they don't develop any relationship. And so if they ever stop hustling, if they ever stop barraging you with emails, speaking at you, their business dies because they have no relationship, they have no depth. And so yes, they have lots of activity going on. Yes, they've got a lot of speaking at, but they have no depth. And because of that, if at any point in time, anything happened whatsoever to their ability to communicate at people, their business would die. And if you don't think that's true, go check the business. Think about it. Think about how often they have to text you. That's not out of fun. It's not just so that they can grow. It's because of necessity. If they don't continue to speak at you, they will die. And that's not where you want your business to be. You want to be speaking with people, because when you speak with people, you build depth into your business. See, desirable businesses are willing to answer questions. Spammy, scammy businesses are not. That's the truth. And so if you found yourself accidentally falling into that category, that's something to become aware of and change. Because as soon as you change that, your business becomes desirable again. And the desirable is from the prospect's perspective, which is the only perspective that matters in business. The customer's perspective is what matters. Now, it doesn't mean the customer's always right, even though that's how sometimes people express it. But the customer's perspective is always the only perspective that matters. And so we need to be thinking about that when it comes to marketing and business. And this is the concept I want to get to, which is most profit is a single question away. See, whatever level of business that you have right now, if you're not doing what I've been talking about, is coming as the result of people who buy in spite of you instead of because of you. So maybe you're saying, no, my marketing is really compelling. That could be true. But the people who are buying not necessarily just because you're marketing, but if you're not answering questions, if you're not engaging in conversation with some of the prospects, then you're leaving most of your profit on the table, because most people don't buy. And you have to understand the reason that they don't buy, because when you understand that reason, then you can actually help them to start buying. The reason that most people don't buy is because they have one question or one concern that keeps them from buying. And so what that means is that if you're getting by right now, if you're doing well right now, you have the ability to do exceptionally well if you'll just start having conversations with people who should have bought but didn't buy. Should have boughts are people who act like buyers in every sense except for giving you money or engaging your company as a customer. And the reason, again, is there's one question or one concern that's keeping them away. So most profit is a single question away. And that's the beautiful part about texting and the why did you question, is it introduces and opens the door for people to have a safe place to ask those questions, because more conversations means you have more sales, which means you have more profit. It's pretty simple math. But if you understand that, then you can start doing things differently to accelerate the growth of the company, and then more importantly, the profit of the company. And believe me, more profit is a lot more fun than not more profit. Because if you love what you're doing, you want to continue to do it, then a profit makes it so that you can do it happily and serve deeper and richer and be really grateful that you have those opportunities to serve. But it's all about conversation, and texting is all about conversation. So that live texting with other humans, some people get intimidated by that. They're like, well, shoot, I'm going to be overwhelmed by text messages. If you get overwhelmed by text messages in response to the questions you're asking, that's the most wonderful problem you can have, because it should be conversations that end up with sales. Now, if they don't, then we just have to refine your sales process, because conversations is where all the opportunity is. Go talk to any organization that has salespeople, and if you could tell them you could double the number of sales conversations they have, what would they expect would occur? And they'll undoubtedly tell you, well, we should be able to double sales, because it's about having conversations with people. Now, if your conversations are with the wrong people, that's easy to tweak. We just start asking a different question. As soon as we ask a different question, then we'll get different people answering that question. So all we really want to do is have conversations, and then we can refine those conversations if they're not producing exactly the result we're going for. But the secret really lies in having more conversations. So some people call in order to have conversations. And the main reason that people don't answer people's calls is because they don't recognize the number. So if you would like to 4 times your phone call answer rate, which means if I place 10 calls and I only get 1 answer, if I want to get to having 10 calls and get 4 answers, you're going to do this one technique. And this is that one message I was telling you about that would quadruple your phone call answer rate. Again, more conversations means more sales, means more profits. And here's the text message in the template. The first part is identify who you are. Now, this for some people goes way against their grain, because they're like, well, I got to sneak up on them. No, identify exactly who you are. The reason people don't answer is because they don't recognize the number, not because you're going to sneak up on them. That's not going to work anymore. Nobody answers the phone because they all see the number. And if they don't recognize the number, no answer. Okay. Identify exactly why you are calling. This is the other thing that can rub people, some salespeople go, no, I can't let them, I got to sneak up on them. But again, be forthcoming. If you've set up the lead properly, which means if you've been communicating with the lead properly with your marketing automation, they should know who you are and they should want to talk to you. If they don't, then we got the wrong list. We're calling the wrong people. That means you're probably cold. If you're cold calling, this doesn't work, by the way. This only works with people who are leads that you've acquired, and now you're trying to convert to customers through helping them have making a buying decision. And so by identifying who you are and why you are calling, you're going to get 4 things that will occur. The first one is you will get a text back to reschedule, because most people, if they don't answer when you call, it's because they're busy. They're in the restroom, they're on a call themselves, they're working on a project, whatever it may be, the timing just may not be right for them. So they will reschedule because they know who you are and why you're calling, so they reschedule. They say, oh, hey, can you call me tomorrow at 3 p.m.? If you have ever been in phone sales, you know that is gold. To be able to know when the person wants to have the conversation is so valuable and way better than just getting a voicemail. The next thing that will happen is they'll just answer, because now they know who you are and why you're calling. They're going to answer when you call. The next one will be some people will just not answer. And this is the order of most likely to least likely. Some people just won't answer now because they know who you are. They've decided they don't want to talk to you. And the way that they're going to handle it is they're not going to say anything. And then finally, there are some people that are courteous enough to say, hey, look, I'm just not interested, which is the most valuable thing you can get as a telephone salesperson, because if they're really not interested, then we don't want to waste any of our time and effort trying to call them, because every person we got to dial is time that we have that's extremely valuable in unlimited supply. So if you want to 4 times your phone call answer rate, 1, you've got to have opened the door to text in the first place, and then you got to be able to send that message out that says, hey, I'm about to call, here's who I am, and here's what I'm calling about. And when you do that, you'll see way better results in your calls than if you're just calling cold or blindly, so to speak, where they don't know your number and they don't know who you are as you're trying to dial them. Again, just a reminder, you've probably seen this at the top. I didn't call it out, but I'll call it out now. there's the keyword learn in the phone number 949-835-5300. If you want a copy of the book, The Messaging Connection, which has more depth than what we're covering in this training on some concepts and principles, you can get a free audio copy and a free digital copy by texting learn to that number. You'll see it at the top of some of the other slides, but I just want to call that out to you. Also, if you have any questions that are coming up for you, go ahead and ask those. We're just about done. This is nearly the last slide. Again, the biggest secret to effective texting is live texting. And in order for you to have live texting really work for you, you need to receive push notifications to your smartphone or a web app, depending on where your working environment is. I like to have both for double coverage. I happen to wear a watch that's connected to my phone, and so I'll get those notifications on my watch as well as my phone. So make sure that I don't miss anything. That's an important element. All right, so what we covered today is why texting is 10 times more powerful than email. You know that because you can connect with people and they'll see your message. We talked about how to immediately increase your profits by simply asking conversation starting questions. And that is the most powerful text message you can send to new prospects is the why did you? We also talked about the common element of all customers who buy, which is they have conversations. And so that's important to be able to have more conversations. In fact, if you want to double your sales conversions, you just have more conversations, and that you do with one text that just simply asks them a conversation starter message. That can be sent in a campaign. It can be at the tail end of an automated conversation, but wherever you put it, that conversation starter question will double your conversions. And we've heard this so many times. Usually it's more than double, but I'm just saying double to be conservative. You'll double your sales conversions if you just start having more conversations. We learned finally how to quadruple the number of people you talk to by sending that message that identifies you and why you're calling. We learned how to get people to give you your mobile number simply by having a compelling call to action and a keyword and a phone number. So I gave you guys an example of that with the learn keyword. And then we talked about the most powerful use of texting that people are totally avoiding, which is having live conversations. It's that simple, guys. You just have live conversations. You will have the most powerful experiences. So if you've been using texting up until this point and you've just been barraging people with messages to send information at them and you haven't been engaging them in conversation, you've missed the entire boat. The whole benefit of messaging comes from engaging in conversation. That is texting superpower. Yes, it's seen more. Yes, you can send media, you can send all this other stuff, but the real superpower of messaging is live texting. And so getting people to engage in live conversations where all the money is. So make sure you're doing that. So I'm going to kind of jump out here. You can see the keyword there. I'm going to go and look at the chat so we can go ahead and address those. If you have additional questions, go ahead and ask them. Okay, so the first question is, what are you using to get your name into the image? So what I'm using to get the name in the image is something called Nifty Images. And so with our software, Fix Your Funnel, that integrates with Nifty Images. So I'll go into Nifty Images, create the image, type my text over the image, and then it has a merge field, and then we actually merge that information live as we send the messages out. So Nifty Images is what I use personally. When people, the next question is, where do their comments go? So when they answer this question, so let's go back to that slide right here. So when they answer this, why did you text demo to our phone number question, that's the end of this automated conversation, which means it now kicks into live messaging. And so what happens is every one of my team members, so with our software, you can have as many team members as you want. You don't pay for the team members, but every team member can be assigned to a phone number. And so what we do in our organization is we assign all of our sales and our support people, and then Trent and I, who are the owners, also get notification of all live messages that have not been claimed that come into that come into that phone number. And so what that means is when they answer this question, that's going to prompt a push notification to hit my watch and my phone. And also if I was on desktop, to hit my desktop notifications and tell me, hey, I got a new message. In this case, it would be from me, but then I could claim it. A member of my team could claim it, and then we start responding to that person, engaging with them personally. Okay, the next question. Again, if you guys have more questions that my answers raise, go ahead and ask those too through the chat. The next question is, can you send specific salesperson's V cards to different people texting in? And the answer is a resounding yes. You can have as many different V cards set up as you want. And those V cards then can be assigned to specific team members. So if you like auto assign an owner via round robin, as in your example, then the owner's V card could be attached. And so we have some advanced features in our software that allow you to be able to indicate, hey, I want to attach this person's V card. So yes, that's totally possible, and that's to be done. Now, when it comes to our software, one of the things that we do, here, I'll put this back up just in case you wanted to get the free copy of the Messaging Connection book. But one of the things that we do with our software is, instead of making you have to learn everything, we provide great customer support. So you can call in, you can chat in, you can text in, and you can say, hey, I want to, in the case of your question, I want to send a specific salesperson's V card, depending on who I've auto-assigned via round robin to that contact. Fantastic. That can totally be done. And so they'll show you how to set that up so that that can be done. The other thing that you may do is you may use different keywords for different salespeople. So if salespeople are prospecting on their own, because in some organizations you have to, go find the prey that you want to sell to. So if you want to do that, then you would give them unique keywords. Now, one of the things I would avoid when it comes to keywords is don't use names. That's kind of a tendency when people are dealing with like an organization where they've got a bunch of people that are prospecting. They might want to use that salesperson's name as the keyword. I would avoid doing that, because sometimes a prospect has the same name, and a keyword conversation would be kicked off when they text them their name and they kind of go in a loop. So better than to just to choose small, simple to type in keywords that won't be changed by autocorrect, and just use those. Because with what's great about with the softwares, at least that we have, is you have unlimited keywords that you can use because you own your own phone number. It's not a phone number that we own. We facilitate you getting the number because we do it right in our software, but that phone number belongs to you. And so you can set whatever keywords you need up. You just can't use the same keyword twice on the same phone number. So that's how that works. Somebody, Cindy chatted in, you have great customer support. Thank you, Cindy. We appreciate that. That's important to us because there's a lot of different options that you can use for messaging. And so from our perspective, we want the software to become transparent for you almost. So a lot of what you need to do with texting software is stuff that maybe you set up once and then you just engage in conversations with people. So you'll have your campaigns interacting, you'll have your keyword collecting information for you. But what really matters for you is just being a human with other humans. And this concept is a really important concept that I've learned over the last decade of, I guess it's 12 years now, working with marketing automation, which is that we want the marketing automation to handle all the busy work and allow then our humans in the organization to interact with other humans, because that's where all the value comes in the company, is with humans caring about other humans and interacting with them. And so if you focus that on your business so that it's interacting with humans, you're going to be more effective. You're going to have better profit. You're going to have better sales. You're going to have a better reputation in the marketplace. And so when you listen and you interact, you'll be more effective in your messaging. So that's all I've got for you guys. If you have any more questions, I got another comment here that we're good at listening and adding to the software based on what people are asking for in the Facebook group. Again, our whole purpose is to serve and facilitate the success of the businesses that we serve. And so if you guys ask for important things that are important to you, then we always evaluate those and see if we can add those in and make it so that it's easier for you to do your job, which is grow your business. All right, well, if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me on this training today. I hope that it was as useful for you as I made it sound to be, because we always want to deliver on the promises we make to the marketplace. So if you had a good experience, we hope that that was the case, because we wanted this training to match up with the expectations that we set. Someone says, perfect timing for us. Great. I'm so glad. All right, you guys have a great day. Again, if you have any needs, let us know. If you haven't already, got a copy of the messaging connection. I think it's great, but I wrote it, so I'm biased. But people that have read it have told me also that it was really good, and it's helped them to make some dramatic shifts in their business for the better. So if you'd like to get a free digital copy, that's a PDF version, and an audio version where you get to hear me read it. That might be a negative or benefit depending on if you find my voice annoying. You can do that by texting LEARN to 949-835-5300. Also, if you'd like a replay of this message, just let us know. We'll make sure we get a replay of this training out to you. Okay, we're gonna quit the meeting then if there's no further questions.